Hi, everyone. This is Chris Dunkel. What we're going to do in this episode is we're going to look at the editing screen in WeVideo. So in this situation, I have created a project. I said, let's create video, and it's taken me to a screen like this. In a previous video that I did, I showed you how you could get your media in here. Now, one way I learned to think about a video editor is to think of it like an artist who's doing a painting. This section up here, where I'm moving my mouse, this section is like the palette that an artist would have, where you're going to load up the palette with a lot of different colors, but those colors don't mean anything until they're actually transferred to the canvas. So in the case of a video editor, think of this as your palette. This is where you can bring in all the pictures, all the video, all the sound clips that you potentially would want to use. But your canvas is going to be down here on the bottom. So this section is where you're actually going to put your video together. So what I have here are just some different posters or things that I created for things we did in drama. So I'm going to drag, this is just an image. I'm going to bring it down here on the video one track. This was an air guitar band thing that we did last year. Now, a couple things I want to note with this. When you bring images down, they're going to default typically to 5 seconds. I think you may be able to go in and change that setting, but generally it's going to default to 5 seconds. If it's an image, it doesn't have a predetermined time element. So if you need that image to last longer or be shorter, you can simply put your cursor on the edge. You may have to click it, but put your cursor on the edge of the image where you get the double arrows, and I could drag it to the right. And if you'll notice this little blue marker, that's on the timeline as I drag, it tells me exactly what time I'm at. So right here, I'm basically 11 seconds. So I made that 5-second image. Now it's going to last for 11 seconds. Of course, conversely, you could drag it the other way, and have it for basically 3 seconds. So in order to start building your video, you're going to need to, bring the items from up here down onto the timeline. I want to talk about one other thing with the timeline, and then in another video, I'll show you all the tabs and special effects. The way video editors, most of them work, is that they work in layers. So you'll notice video 1, video 2. So these are 2 different tracks, and you can layer things on top of each other. So if you think about putting a piece of paper down on a table, and then you take another piece of paper or something smaller and lay it over the top, whatever's on the top layer is going to block what's behind it. So let me give an example of that. Right here, as you see, I've got my guitar band's poster that we did. Here is a poster I made for a play that we did this year. And you'll notice when I put the play poster on top on video 2, it blocks out video 1. So you may be wondering, like, why would you need to do that? Why would you want to block something? One of the ways this comes into play is when you're dealing with green screen footage. So if you film in the green screen, you would put your green screen footage on top, and then we're going to make the green disappear, and it will show through to whatever's below it. Another situation where you may use this, you see this a lot like in the news, is you have a newscaster, and while they're reporting, there'll be an image or something that'll come up over their shoulder. So for example, let's just pretend that the reporter is this guitar poster that I have, and this image right here is going to be what pops up over the shoulder. So in WeVideo, and I will get it more into this in another video, but let me just show you for this purpose. I could double click on this top image, and under the transform tab, I have a scale slider. So I can scale that down, come over to the preview window over here and grab it and move it. So by doing that, I could continue to add layers and layers. So for instance, I've added a third layer here I call titles, but let me just grab something else. I'll drag it here over the top. I can go in here, scale it as well. I could move it to another part. And as you see, now we see all 3 on here. So just know that when you're working with a video editor, that this part here is the palette. None of it matters until you bring it down into the timeline. And once it's on the timeline, the layer that they're in is going to matter. And in WeVideo, you can easily add other layers. You just click the plus. You choose whether you want to add a video layer or an audio layer. You can title it. Like, for instance, I called video track 3. I gave it the name titles in a previous thing. One thing to note with the audio tracks that are down here, very often you're going to want 2 or 3 audio tracks because you may have background music as one track, and then you may have another track where you want to add some sound effects and things of that nature. And so sometimes it's helpful to have multiple tracks. I had one of my students last year in their drama film, they had maybe 5 different layers of audio tracks where they had background music, and then they had a track for just the ambient noise, like a restaurant type noise, and then they had sound effects and a variety of different things going on there. So that's the basics with how the setup works with the video editor. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. In the next video that we do, we'll talk about the different tabs that you have and some of the special effects that you can do.